Hello, and welcome to the latest episode of the Low Budget Review Show. I am your host, Eric Smith. Today, I am talking about Fright Night Origins by Tom Holland with A. Jack Ulrich. This is from Encyclopocalypse and Holland House, I suppose. Now, this is not a novelization of the movie Fright Night. It is a retelling and an expansion of it. Back when the movie came out, 1985, there was a novelization by John Skipp and Craig Spector, which I have a copy of. But this is Tom Holland is the writer-director of the original movie, and apparently this is going to lead into a brand new trilogy. So, I love that cover. I thought I'd grab it and read it. I'm a huge fan of the movie Fright Night. And this is a tough one, folks. I'm going to give you the good stuff first. As I said, this is an expansion, a retelling and expansion of the story of Fright Night. And for those who don't know, in Fright Night, we have Charlie Brewster. He's a high school junior, and he lives with his mom in a small northern California town. He has a girlfriend named Amy, a friend named Evil Ed, and some people, a couple of dudes, move into the house next door to Charlie, and he sees them moving what he believes to be a coffin into the house. And so he starts to suspect, based on that and some other things that happen, that his new neighbor is a vampire. And he goes, there's this old guy, an old actor named Peter Vincent, who hosts a horror movie night TV show called Fright Night. And Peter Vincent was in a bunch of old, like Hammer horror type movies where he played a vampire killer. And so Charlie tries to recruit Peter to help him with his vampire problem. That's the essentials, the basics of it. So what Tom Holland does in this book, one of the good things, is, as I said, he expands on this. He gives us much more character development than we have in the movie, which is, something you can do when you're writing a book. So we learn more about Evil Ed and Peter Vincent and Charlie's mom. And even better than this, we get quite a few scenes of the vampire. Jerry Dandridge is his name. Quite a few scenes of him going out and hunting. So we get a lot of vampire stuff going on, and we learn Jerry Dandridge's backstory. And the other person that moved in, excuse me, is Billy Cole. He's Jerry's companion. I can't think of the word right now. Sort of his Renfield. He's under Jerry's thrall. He's got super strength. He takes care of things during the daytime. We get his backstory as well. So I really like all this extra stuff. And we get police involvement. Now, at one point in the movie, Charlie Brewster does call the police, but here we see the police investigating these murders that take place, and there are quite a few. So it's nice to have this. I'm reading this story that I love, and I'm getting all of this extra stuff, and it does. At the end, I believe it's a big change. There is a sequel movie, Fright Night Part 2, that I haven't seen since it was in the theater, so I don't remember anything about it, and so I'm not sure if what happens at the end of this book maybe is touched on in the second movie. I don't know. I know it's not in the original movie, and it's definitely setting up this new trilogy that's going to come out. So it's a great story. It's got all this great extra stuff. Excuse me. But This is what makes it so hard. All right, I'm going to give it. I just finished it last night before going to bed. So I have not rated it on Goodreads yet. I haven't even written it down in my list of the books that I read. I'm going to give it 2 out of 5. I was hoping I could be generous and bump it up to a 3, but I can't. It's got to be a 2 out of 5, which, according to the Goodreads rating, it was okay. As I said, I really like what was done here, but the writing is just so bad. There are inconsistencies throughout the entire book, and like right at the beginning when we're introduced to Charlie's mom, and these are little things, and maybe if there were 1 or 2, it wouldn't be so bad, but they're throughout the book. We're introduced to Charlie's mom when Charlie and Amy are going to go up to Charlie's room to study trigonometry, and she's sitting in front of the TV and reading a book. Now, it keeps saying she's reading a novel, and then that she's reading true crime, which, whatever. I mean, a true crime book isn't a novel. It's nonfiction. But let's see if I can find it quickly. You can see I actually marked a couple things that I want to point out, but I did not mark this. So let's see. Okay, so, yep, we're getting close. Getting close. Okay, so it says she's reading a crime story called Death Before Breakfast. And this is when Charlie and Amy are about to go upstairs to study trigonometry and do some making out. So maybe a couple hours pass. Don't know exact time frame because Charlie and Amy do study. Then they're making out. Fright Night is on TV. Some stuff goes down. Charlie and Amy come rushing downstairs. And it says that his mother is reading a book about the Hillside Stranglers. Now, I don't think a book called Death Before Breakfast, whatever I said, is going to be about the Hillside Stranglers. So I'm willing to think, hey, she finished one, she started another one. But then she indicates the book she's reading that has just been said to be about the Hillside Stranglers. And she says to Charlie and Amy, a woman in this book poisoned her husband. I'm like, but that's not, I don't think that would be in a book about the Hillside Stranglers. It's little things. At one point it says that she got into true crime when her husband died, and then later it says she got into true crime when she was in college. After a certain murder, when the police are investigating, they clearly say, we may have found the murder weapon. There was a fire axe that they found in the bushes. Fine. We know it is the murder weapon. Excuse me, but they clearly say this. We found this fire axe in the bushes. We think it's the murder weapon. And then later, the coroner says something about they found little pieces of metal in the victim's neck stump. It's going to send it to the lab, and maybe it will give us a clue as to what the murder weapon was. Well, compare it to the fire axe. Come on. But there's no mention of the fire axe again. There's one of the cops decides he's going to investigate Jerry Dandridge, and then it's never brought up again. And it's just these little inconsistencies throughout the entire book, and the writing itself is not very good. So I have 3 examples here because I just have to share, so I actually took my little special things to make this easier. So there's a point in the story where Charlie, Amy, Ed, and Peter Vincent are testing Jerry Dandridge to see if he's a vampire. And Jerry has eyes for Amy. And with no punctuation, it says, so Jerry is just staring intently at Amy. Because, spoilers, I guess, I don't know. She looks like his lost love from hundreds of years ago. So it says, Charlie noticed Jerry looking at her in alarm. Well, that doesn't make any sense. Charlie's the one who's feeling alarm. But that sentence, Charlie noticed Jerry looking at her in alarm. Jerry's not the one looking at her in alarm. Poor sentence construction. And then the first one, this is when I decided to use these little tab things. Okay. This says, excuse me, this is all one sentence. Blood flew everywhere, blinding the dancers swirling by, hitting people at the bar, and a couple necking in the corner as blood went flying everywhere. Again, just poor sentence construction. Starts and ends with blood flying everywhere. And then finally, we have Charlie and Peter Vincent are talking. And they're talking about Billy Cole. And Charlie says, what if he's not human? Peter says, so quote, he walks around in the daylight now, doesn't he? Peter said with seeming total confidence. Charlie nodded, not able to think of anything else to say. Yeah, Charlie said. Just, for me, this is disconcerting. And this is the writing throughout the entire book. So I can't go higher than 2 stars on this. I really wanted to love it because I love the movie. I love the idea of a new trilogy of stories. But and there, I did say there are some good things, but overall, it felt like reading a first draft that nobody looked at. The punctuation is horrible. There are places where there should be commas or other punctuation, and they aren't there. There are places where they're everywhere, or they're not needed. It's just so disappointing. But I know that it's a popular franchise. I believe there's 4 movies: the original, sequel to the original, the remake, and then the sequel to the remake. But I know it's relatively popular. The remake's not bad either, but I love the original. So, normally I want to review stuff that I've enjoyed, that I can recommend. That's sort of the whole point of this channel, is to get people reading things. But every once in a while, I just feel like I need to let people know that this book is just okay. Now, I'm going to be honest. I will check out at least the first book in the new trilogy. Maybe it will be an improvement. And I'm interested in the story. But I don't know if I can handle the writing if it does not improve. It just feels like a first draft that nobody looked at and they just published it. Nobody pointed out the inconsistencies and the poor writing or anything else. when someone should have. Someone should have gone through this book, and maybe they did. I would assume someone did. But someone should have read this and said, hey, if she's reading a book about the Hillside Strangler, that's not going to say anything about a woman that poisoned her husband. If it says she got into true crime after her husband died, then she didn't get into true crime when she was in college. If they have the fire axe, then they should have a clue as to what the metal in this neck stump is. And you need a comma here, or take this comma out. So, yeah, that's 2 out of 5 stars. It was okay. I really like the story itself. I like the additions to the story. Although there are a few things that don't go anywhere. And I don't know if they're going to carry over into the new trilogy. But as I said, in the one case, the detective... So Charlie... This is in the movie. Charlie calls the cops and says he thinks, there's been these murders. I think my neighbor is the killer. And so the cops show up. They go to the house, and Charlie is getting so upset and discombobulated that he blurts out that he believes this person is a vampire. Jerry Dandridge, he's a vampire. And of course, then the cop is like, what? You said you thought this was the serial killer. Now you're talking about vampire, stupid kid. I'll throw you in jail. And he leaves. And then this is a cop that we've been following throughout the book. He's investigating all these murders. And when they're at another crime scene, he decides he's going to, I forget why exactly, but decides he's going to look into Jerry Dandridge and Billy Cole. These people that they just moved into town, and now we're getting all these murders. Can't be a coincidence. I'm going to look into it, and then it's never brought up again. Oh, and that reminds me of another thing. Excuse me. When they're setting up the test, Amy and Evil Ed go to Peter Vincent, and they're like, look, our friend Charlie is crazy. He thinks his neighbor is a vampire. He's talking about going over there and staking this dude. He's talking about committing a murder. Will you just come with us and convince Charlie that his neighbor's not a vampire? And Evil Ed has a plan. Yeah, we'll go over there and we'll do a vampire test. And so they set this up, and he calls Jerry Dandridge. And Jerry Dandridge is like, yeah, sure, let's do this. But no crosses. I'm born again. I think it would be sacrilegious to do this sort of thing if we're using a cross. And they're like, well, how about holy water? And he's like, no, same thing. And Peter Vincent is like, well, it'll just be tap water. We're just going to say it's holy water, but it'll just be tap water. And Jerry Dandridge is like, yeah, cool. Come over tomorrow at 6 o'clock. 6 o'clock tomorrow. They're like, great, no problem. And then he even tells, Jerry Dandridge then tells Billy Cole, he's like, well, I guess we can stay in tonight. They're coming over tomorrow, and they'll be in our house. We can take care of this problem. And then it's immediately followed by, they go over to his house at 6 o'clock that night. Now there's something a bit disconcerting. So, found it very quickly. Don't bring him over until 6 tomorrow. I'll be out until then. And then he says to Billy Cole, it seems we don't have to go out tonight after all. His friends are bringing him over tomorrow night. Chapter ends. Next chapter. It was later in the evening when Amy and Evil Ed pulled up on the scooter before Charlie's house. Blah, 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 blah. Peter Vincent shows up. Now, I thought, okay, maybe it's just poorly written. It was later in the next evening because it leads into they're going to do the test. But then it very clearly says that it's that night. It's the same night. That's another thing. I mean, there's so many. At the end, for the climax, Charlie is meeting. Oh, no, wait. No, it's this scene. So it's supposed to be 6 o'clock. They're waiting outside for Peter Vincent. Excuse me. And it's like 10 after 6. Charlie's like, is he going to be here? Is he going to be here? It's already 10 after 6. Peter Vincent shows up. They go in the house. Billy Cole calls for Jerry Dandridge to come downstairs, and all the clocks strike 8. Like, 2 hours have not gone by. And, it says when we first meet Peter Vincent, it says he has his Studebaker is in prime condition. That's going to be more difficult to find. But it clearly says his old Studebaker is in prime condition. And then when he pulls up to do this vampire test, it says his beat up old Studebaker. It's just, at this point, I'm just rambling about the poor writing. So, sorry, folks. I can't recommend this. 2 out of 5 stars. If you're a crazy person like me, yeah, I suppose you can pick it up, but otherwise I say avoid it. It's not worth it. It's interesting story, interesting expansions, but just so poorly written. It always breaks my heart a little when I do this. That's why I don't do it very often. But there you go. That is Fright Night Origins by Tom Holland with A. Jack Ulrich, however you say that name. I don't really have a question for this video because I'm a little too sad. I guess if you read or watch a review like this, how likely are you to still pick up and read the book? Especially if it's something, a property or something that you're actually very interested in. I mean, I will check out 1-star reviews on Amazon. If there's a book that's just caught my eye, I'm not sure of it, I will look at the 5-star reviews. I'll look at the 1-star reviews, maybe 3-star reviews as well. And fortunately, most books I'm looking at, I can read a sample, which is usually the clincher. But how does this type of review affect your buying and reading decisions? Let me know in the comments below. And if you have any comments, questions, or corrections, please put those in the comments below. If you've read a book about the Hillside Stranglers where a woman poisons her husband, let me know in the comments below. Comments are open for spoilers. Just post spoiler warning. We try to be polite here on the Low Budget Review Show. What am I forgetting? Please like, share, and subscribe. All that YouTube stuff. If you'd care to follow me on other social media, my Twitter is @Ronin5757. My Instagram, where I post pictures of books, comic books, board games, and fuzzy animals, is Eric Smith 5757. That's Eric with a K, ERIKSMITH 5757. That's all I have. This has been the Low Budget Review Show. I have been Eric Smith, and until next time, read more good books.